If you had to look to someone, well, surely the kudos for 1979 must largely go to the captain of the Australian team, our footballing doctor, Dr George Peponis. If anyone is ever a great advertisement for rugby league, then this man from Canterbury-Bankstown has to be it. This special report we file for the World of Sport on Dr George Peponis.
Captain and first Canterbury player ever to captain the Australian team, our own George Peponis. Reserves are brown in the park.
You don't wake up in the middle of the night short of breath?
Wake up, but I'm short of breath.
Right, okay.
This is the moment I will cherish forever. The words of Australian Rugby League hooker and captain George Peponis after his team had just created history by defeating Great Britain in the Ashes series 3-0. Dr George Peponis is an achiever. He's not a natural footballer and has worked hard at his game. At the same time, he worked 6 long, hard years studying to become a doctor. Mixing professional football with all its demands, plus his studies, and being successful at both, is a pretty good indication of George Peponis's drive. When George captained Australia this year, it was a lifelong ambition fulfilled. And to this day, George believes that playing for Australia is something that club football can't buy.
Obviously, I want to captain Australia. I think it's very important to me. But also captaining and playing for my club, because I owe the club a lot over the years. And I want to try and get myself back 100% fit so that I can give them money, give them value for their money.
Dr George Peponis, or George Peponis as he's affectionately known, joined Canterbury-Bankstown in 1972. Now, 90 first-grade games later, he's at the top of the tree. Captain of Australia, captain of Canterbury, a successful doctor and businessman. It would be logical to think Dr George might find it hard to find his level with his footballing colleagues.
I don't think it makes it difficult. I think you'd be surprised the education that a lot of footballers have these days.
But do you have very much in common, really?
I think so. Well, I've grown up with those people, and obviously it's a little bit different from the people I mix with at the hospital and that, or where I'd work. But no, I find a lot in common with them. I've grown up in that environment, so I'm used to it.
Being a doctor playing a tough body contact sport does has its contradictions. Still, George copes pretty well. However, there are times when the doctor takes over the footballer on the field.
I was a bit distressed last weekend when a player was knocked unconscious, and I saw his eyes roll up and he was gurgling. And I sort of raced over then and told him to leave him alone. He was lying on his side, which he was at the time anyway. And then by that time, their trainer had come on.
So you were thinking as a doctor at that time?
At that particular moment, yeah.
More than a player?
I think so, because they were attacking at the time, but he looked serious at the time, so I was naturally concerned as a medical man. But once his trainer and doctor had come on, then I tuned right off and went back to thinking football.
If you could stamp out any practice in football, any type of injury, what would it be?
I think the worst is where players come in occasionally. It doesn't happen very often, luckily, but with knees late in the tackle and into the back of an opposition player. And that's the most frightening thing to me, the consequences that can bring.
George won't deny that football is good for business. Still, it can have an effect at his 5-doc surgery.
It's a bit awkward when you limp into your own surgery and you limp up to examine a patient or something. Or
you're carrying a broken arm or...
Yeah, or a black eye or something. It's a bit embarrassing for your patients.
On the question on how much money he earns from football, George, like a good politician, was delightfully evasive. However, he did reveal some startling facts.
Well, I'll just tell you what the average footballer earns, and I think it's graded down as to whether you're an international player or not. I think the average first grader would be on about $15,000 a year.
But you're not
the average international, and the average first grader would probably be on about $10,000 a year.
But you're not an average first grader.
Well, an average international player would probably be on about $15,000 a year, between about 13 and 15.
Dr George Peponis has really made it, but not one to be carried away with the success that has come his way. George knows exactly where his future is, and it's not in football.
That's a year-to-year proposition for me at the moment. I'll decide at the end of the year. I'll probably play another year.
So you're 25 now.
Right.
Would you see yourself playing football for another 5 years?
No, definitely not.
Whenever Dr. George decides to hang up his boots, it will close a chapter on a remarkable career. The little Greek boy who made it in the toughest sporting code in the world.
And that's the way it is. Dr. George Peponis, a real credit to rugby league. And Dr. George, with the compliments of another fellow who was a great credit to rugby league in his playing days, Kevin Junee. Kevin Junee's Sports Stores is quite happy to make available to us some Brooks training shoes for the Sydney to surf. And I noticed, Dr. George, you had those in your shop too. So, and also a beautiful training tracksuit. So with the compliments of Kevin Junee, for you, Dr. George, congratulations on being such a credit to the game that you grace.